I think people should come to Walsall because it's a very friendly town.
It's the best town in the Black Country.
I think people should come to Walsall because Baghdad's too far away.
Great market, great pubs, and people really friendly.
If Walsall was a type of car, it'd be a Ford Capri. It's a bit old and battered, but still fast.
Probably the best thing about Walsall is the road to West Bromwich.
Mark Steele's in town.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Mark Steele is in town. And this week I'm in Walsall at the salubrious multi-chandeliered town hall. So the first thing that we need to make clear here, this is Walsall and nothing to do with Birmingham, which is a separate place. Entirely different, about 8 miles away and another universe altogether. It's possible, there is a theory that this is how Walsall got started, was that at one point in history a few people from Birmingham said, I'll tell you what maybe we should do to try and get rid of this accent, right? Where a few of us march like a few miles north and a few miles west, give it about 5 generations, we might have lost this accent, you never know. And then 150 years later, blimey, did that happen? It's even worse. Also, I am aware that there is a whole argument that goes on here about where exactly you are, and amongst yourselves there's some sort of debate. Are we in the Black Country? Are we not in the Black Country? The people on the sort of more industrial side say, yes, we're in the Black Country. And then there's a few people on the more posher Staffordshire side who say, no, we're not in the Black Country because that way it adds another £10,000 to the value of our house, so we can't be in the Black Country. But I'd like to tell those people, you can't choose the region you're in like that. It's like some pretentious Geordie going, oh, no, we're strictly speaking not in Newcastle. This side of the street is Monte Carlo. You can't decide. Also, the other thing, and I've noticed this myself over the last couple of weeks, and I've said I'm coming to Walsall, this must annoy you. That you must get fed up of people when you say where you're from going, oh, Poland? That must... It's amazing how often that happens. Presumably every day you have someone come over here from Poland. Here you are, I have brought you all the post that was delivered to us by mistake. And also, because with Poles coming over here now, that must make it doubly confusing. I imagine all these conversations now between Poles and people who are from Dudley. Whereabouts are you from? Warsaw. Ah, from up the road, like? No, I'm from Warsaw. It is many miles. No, it's about 8 miles, actually, mate. I've heard of you. You have heard of us. Maybe you have heard of our ghetto. Oh, you're making posh cakes up there now, are you? Oh, funny I'd have put that on the 2 Ronnies 20 years ago. Also, I was told before I came, and I have now witnessed this phenomena for myself, I was told before I came up here that one of your most popular attractions is the concrete hippo of Walsall. This is a famous place for meeting at. Walsall people are, quite rightly, I'm told, very, very proud of the concrete hippo. And I was really looking forward to seeing this. I thought, what a fantastic, brilliant, original landmark. And I bet it's beautiful and real life-size hippo. Maybe in mid-yawn, or maybe some sculpture's done it and he's upside down in mud playing with his babies. And I saw it and it's pathetic, Walsall. It's about 3/4 of an inch long. It's a concrete gerbil. You won't get Attenborough doing anything about that hippo, will you? Here it is, if we look, this magnificent specimen. Its markings remarkably similar to a bench in Droitwich. If I'm very, very quiet, I should hear the familiar cry of its mate. Where's the hippo? They've moved the hippo. This is the point, of course, having established itself as a meeting place in Walsall, they then moved the hippo. That's just cruel, isn't it? There's probably still people there, quite a lot of them. God, bloody hell, they've been 4 months. When are they going to arrive? There is, in fact, do you know there's a Walsall Hippo Statue Appreciation Society, which apparently has got 1,644 members on Facebook. Now, I think it is, in a way, it's quite fitting. Your most famous landmark is concrete. You do seem to like concrete round here. I don't know. Of course, I'm not saying you like concrete, but there's concrete and the flyovers, and they all seem to be everywhere. It doesn't seem to be a single part of Walsall that isn't within sight of at least one motorway. Somewhere or other. I get the impression, even if you're around someone's house and ask for the toilet, they say, you need the M5 to junction 19. But nowhere near as bad as Birmingham, I'll give you that, for just flyovers and concrete, and it's just like one giant flyover everywhere. You could never, ever justify asking anyone the directions in Birmingham at all. It's a waste of time, because they'll just go, right, well, you need to go through Bearwood, turn left at Digbeth, down the Bristol Road, go the Edgbaston flyover, round the back of Erdington, then you go up to Solihull, back through Acock's Green, through Stechford, then you need to go to Spaghetti Junction, take the 5th exit off the 9th roundabout, the 11th exit off the 14th roundabout, back through Digbeth, and you go up to New Street Station, onto the platform and get the train, because I'm booking it for another way, mate. It's just nowhere. But, of course, you get past all those bits that have been dumped on it, and, of course, there's all these wonderful little innovative bits about Walsall. I love the leather trade, for example. This is something you should be very proud of. I went round the leather museum there with all these sort of lovely saddles and people lovingly brushing all bits of leather. I bought a wallet there. I can't help thinking, though, that there must be some disappointed people who turn up to the leather museum. Here we are, we're there. I hope it's as good as the one in Amsterdam. So I want to be positive. I think I'm going to be really, really positive. I look for some positive stories about Walsall, and then I find in the paper a headline, Walsall man shoots himself with his own taser gun. Shot himself with a 1 million volt taser gun to see if it worked. I saw also that in 2002 you had an earthquake, which is very impressive, and West Bromwich didn't have an earthquake, did it? You've got an earthquake, something to be very proud of, and I bet there were people going, yeah, right, here you go, look, what are you, we've got an earthquake. Right, and then I saw an article in the Times that said, many residents thought they were being burgled. What does that say about a place? Oh, there's only one explanation for this, we're being robbed. There was anyone from Walsall near the tsunami when it happened. I bet they went, oh, I know this scam, they're after your wallets. So, you do need, I mean, I've come to like the place, but you need someone working on your publicity. You haven't always got the best press. There's a writer called Theodore Dalrymple, and he wrote in an American magazine, it's possible there are uglier towns in the world than Walsall, but if there are, I don't know them. It's like Ceausescu's Romania with fast food outlets. Dickens said the area was the journey's end and might be the end of everything else. It's so ruinous and dreary. What is it about writers that they're so rude about you? There's probably a story somewhere by Beatrix Potter that goes, one day Jemima Puddle Duck wanted to make some delicious apple crumbles for the village summer fair, but she had no apples and had to go all the way to the woods to get some in the pouring rain. Not to worry, she smiled, at least I don't have to go anywhere near sodding Walsall. Of course, there have been many efforts to alter the town's image, such as the commission in 2000 for a sculpture of Princess Diana to go in the bus station. And magnificently, before it was unveiled, it turned out the granite made her black. That's fantastic. The headline, Black Diana gives Her Majesty displeasure, and it was never put up. But it It was ahead of its time, right? Because now, when white people want to act cool, they try to sound black. If Diana came back now, I reckon that's how she'd go. She'd go, like, as a people's princess, she'd get me in it. Also, there's this big centrepiece now, the art gallery, and it's got a lift that tells you which floor you're on, as I'm sure you all know. And the voice in the lift is the voice of Noddy Holder, which is fantastic, isn't it? Because Noddy Holder is from Walsall. But I was wondering, do other towns do this? Like in Glasgow, the Art Centre lift got Billy Connolly going, "Oh, we're going up so high here." I mean, the Gloucester one has got Fred West. Now we're going to the basement, my favourite. The council doesn't always seem to want to promote Walsall as much as it should do. I've got the notes that were put out by the council about the history of Walsall, a glance at the borough's history, and it had this to say. Walsall Market. Walsall has had a market since at least 1220, when the Crown granted the Lord of the Manor to hold a market every Monday. In 1417, the Crown changed market day to a Tuesday. Bloody hell, it all happens here, doesn't it? God, I bet that was a momentous roller coaster 200 years, wasn't it? But of course, the difficulty you have, and this is unfair, I'm entirely on your side here, Walsall, the difficulty that you have in promoting the place to its rightful position, it seems to me, is that a lot of people are a little bit hesitant about the accent. I think this is snobbery. We know the BBC just would never allow the presenter of Newsnight to be from Walsall because they just could not imagine someone going, "Minister, I'm asking you again, did you see the statement before you made the position clear in the House of Commons? And if you didn't, you're going to resign." So I think it's brilliant, and summed up for listeners, I'm sure everybody here will know this, but summed up by the joke that I saw about the Walsall man who goes off to join the army, and on the night before the battle, the general stands up and he says, "Right then, men, I'm sure you didn't come here to die." And the Walsall man goes, "Well, I didn't, sir, I come here yesterday." And I think that sort of sums it up. Now, so, around this time in the 14th century was discovered the stuff that would eventually make this the Black Country, because apparently under the ground there was all of this limestone. Even more important, there was high-quality coal and, most importantly, iron ore, from which iron was extracted, obviously. Now, I went round a foundry, and there's some of the fine people there from Chamberlain and Hill up the road there. You are here from Chamberlain Hill, are you? Yeah! I went round there, they were lovely, but I did think when I was going round there, blimey, in an iron foundry you should be paid a fortune, even if you just sit in the place, because it's so hot and it's full of molten metal, which is to say, metal that's so hot that it's melted and become liquid, and they just pour it from one place to another like it's tea. Or how many sugars do you want with your molten metal? And then Dave and Gordon, who were great, but Dave and Gordon were great, who sort of showed me round. They said, "Now, before we go around, right, whatever you do, don't touch any of the metal unless I say that it's all right for you to touch it." And I thought, well, of course I'm not going to touch it. You think I'm mental? It's molten bloody metal. Do you think I'm going to go, "Oh, I know it's 100,000 billion squillion degrees, but it looks so silky I can't resist it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh." It's crazy, the place. It's not. That's why when volcanoes, they're in there doing all this stuff. And I'm thinking, no, when you see this stuff, it's on the news when there's a volcano and they go to the report and there's people fleeing. They're not just stood over there pouring it into castings and going, "Now, don't touch the inside of the volcano unless I tell you to." the change of the Industrial Revolution, it wasn't just about the machines, as we know, it was also about a whole new way of thinking about work. Because in the 1700s, most people in industry, they worked in their own home with their own children helping them, and they had their own machines, and everything was being made for the Saturday market in their own time, so they had some sort of control, and everything revolved around the Saturday market, including marriages. And here is an account I found from the Walsall market in the 1700s. A man led his wife from a village 8 or 9 miles away and sold her in a few minutes for 2 shillings and 6pence. The purchaser was a nailer who had come in from the same village. All parties were reported to be satisfied. That still go on? But everything led to the Saturday market. And the brilliant thing, there was this whole system that grew up called Saint Monday, because the saints' days were days off. And of course the employers hated this whole business of the merchants who bought all this stuff. They hated this idea that people didn't work on the Monday. And so the Industrial Revolution was about forcing people out of this way of thinking. And of course also the obsession with productivity transformed the lives of children. One Walsall resident in 1864 was Samuel Denill, a caster's assistant, and he gave evidence to a report that went, "I was 10 last April. I have worked for about a year and a half. I come in at 6 in the morning and go every night at 7. And on Saturdays I stop to sweep. I get 2 shillings and 6pence a week." So pretty grim. On the other hand, he was earning enough each week to buy a wife. I couldn't do that when I was 10. Something that might have helped shape Walsall, I think, is like the skills of the iron workers, the foundrymen, and then later on the leather trade here, because these were skills that were all kept on right through the Industrial Revolution and beyond. Also, then the foundries started making the stirrups and the various little bits of metal that were needed by horsemen for the army, and so the leather trade grew up alongside it. And Walsall made this very high-quality leather, which it still makes, to the extent that I am informed that the Queen's handbag is made from leather from Walsall, which, did she come up here and buy it in the Saddlers' Centre? And then there's loads and loads of these trades still going on, irons, locks, saddles, and it makes a continuity with the past, I think, which sort of gives the opportunity for a sense of community. And also, I mean, this is an example. There's loads of famous people have come from Walsall. We know about Noddy Holder, Goldie, the drum and bass man. Maybe Boy George comes from Walsall, though he seems to deny it. And does deny it, apparently, and I have to say that's not complimentary, Walsall, that he denies it when you think about what he's saying. Because he's saying, all right, I was a heroin addict, I accept that. But I did not come from Walsall. Newbolt, the poet who wrote a famous poem about cricket and empire. The sand of the desert is sodden red, red with the wreck of a square that broke. The Gatlings jammed and the colonel dead and the regiment blind with dust and smoke. The river of death has brimmed his banks and England's far and honour a name, but the voice of a schoolboy fills the ranks. Play up, and play the game. Now, this is why poets of the empire had to be cricket fans. Because if he was a football fan, it would have ended, and honour's a name and England's afar. But the voice of a schoolboy rallies the ranks. You're shit and you know you are. Who else? Anyone else famous from Walsall? Have I missed out? Oh, right, Judas Priest. God, you like things loud here, don't you? Richard, what? It's all right, yeah, the actor. Yeah. Blimey, everyone.
Sister Dora.
Sister Dora, well, Sister Dora we shall come on to. I think it's a sign of community in a sense, that despite all of these people that are around, Judas Priest and such other people, the most celebrated character in the area is Sister Dora, Dorothy Pattison. Sister Dora was brought up in Victorian Yorkshire, and she had a string of affairs, and then she became a sister of the Anglican Church, and the church trained these nurses, and she said that what she loved about this was that the hospitals consider men as men, and not just as hands to work. In 1859, the mayor of Walsall started a fund for the town's hospital. Now, up until then, the patients from here were sent over to Birmingham. I bet you loved that, didn't you? To be fair to Birmingham, they weren't very keen on the deal either, and the secretary of the Birmingham hospital sent a letter to the mayor that said the hospital authorities would thank the people of Walsall to send more money and fewer patients. Sister Dora, taking the opposite attitude, came to Walsall, and this was considered a difficult place to do nursing. This is why I think Dora became a hero. She became a nurse for the poorest people in the town, and she set up schemes to improve health for beggars, for drunks and prostitutes, and she made a point of nursing the Irish, who were under attack at the time, until she said, there is hardly a poor man or woman in Walsall that I don't know personally. And she was questioned why so many patients got sick in the hospital, and she worked out that they were getting sick because of what she called hospital diseases, and she worked this out because the place was full of filth and dust. And so she organised a cleaning system that almost eliminated what was known as surgical fever. And I mean, I just think it's extraordinary when you think back to that age, how stupid that we were, not realising that if your hospitals are filthy, people are going to get sick. What were they thinking in those days? Dora's methods completely transformed. Just her cleaning regime transformed the hospital, and she was helped in one way because, as one account puts it, black country dirt has one great advantage. It's visible in its gritty density. And then, in 1875, there was a huge explosion at the iron company in Walsall, and dozens of iron workers were killed or maimed, and Dora organised the treatment for the survivors, and she organised collections through the town, and she became such a hero that her picture was put up in thousands of homes across Walsall, and she became known as the civilian Florence Nightingale. And she died at the age of 46. And her statue in the shopping centre, that's now in the shopping centre there, was the first statue in Britain of a woman who wasn't in the royal family. So I can see how Walsall must have thought, how on earth do we top that? I know, we'll do a statue of a woman who was in the royal family and make her black. Also, brilliantly, Walsall, you have the most famous anarchists in British history, because in the 1890s there was a socialist club in Goodall Street, but some of the members became anarchists, and they met these two Frenchmen who said they wanted to join the group. Now, straight away you would think that would arouse your suspicions, wouldn't it? That you would have someone going, as a French anarchist, what excites me is passion, protest, cuisine, romance, joie de vivre. Finding the most beautiful way to use language, which is why I come to Walsall. But the Frenchmen were then contacted by a man called Auguste Coulon, who was the leader of the anarchists. At that time, they met in Tottenham Court Road in London. And when Coulon found out that one of the Walsall anarchists, Fred Charles, worked in a foundry, he wrote a letter saying, "Then he will make do to make bombs for us." Who would actually say, "Then he will make do to make bombs for us"? Was there another sentence that went, "The fools"? And then the editor of the Walsall anarchist newspaper wrote that, and I promise this is true, he wrote, "Coulon sent me an article celebrating the blowing up of a cow in Belgium as a great and revolutionary act." That has got to be the most magnificent sentence in English history. Blowing up a cow in Belgium. Because now it'd be straight on YouTube, wouldn't it? With thousands of kids go, look, look, look. So, Coulon then sent instructions for making bombs to the foundry, and the anarchists never actually got round to making them, possibly because they were suspicious, possibly because they were anarchists. And the police started following members of the Walsall Socialist Club, and then suddenly the club was raided. And the police found the plans for the bomb that was sent by Coulon, and 5 of the anarchists were arrested, and they were jailed for 5 to 10 years. And there was a national campaign, although they still stayed in jail. Now, later it was discovered that the plans for the bomb that had been found gun sent by this guy Coulon was actually useless. It could never have made a bomb. So the police then altered the design to make it that it was one that would work. Who'd have thought of such a thing from the West Midlands Police? It's inconceivable. Then the only anarchist who was involved who wasn't arrested was this guy Coulon, who it turned out was a police spy all along. And so then Inspector Melville arrived to recommend him for a post teaching French at a private school for girls. So presumably he stood there all day going, "Il allume la vache Belgique," he sets fire. And there's a football club, Walsall Football Club, who, despite losing 5-0 at home to Bristol Rovers, can still pride itself on its most glorious moment in the 1930s when Walsall were at the bottom of the 3rd Division South and met Arsenal in the FA Cup, who were considered utterly unbeatable by anyone, and you won 2-0 in what's been described as the biggest shock ever. That's a proper football club, one that had one great day 76 years ago. There's a great thing. Apparently the players were so surprised to even get to a point where they were playing Arsenal in the first place that they celebrated beforehand by eating oysters on the pitch. Now, that's a fantastic British sporting attitude, isn't it, right? We've got no chance, so we'll celebrate beforehand. The trouble is, I think, with so many places in Britain now, every decade, these people come along and they plonk their thing of the time on top of it, like the tower blocks of the 60s or the ring roads of the 70s, and then the pedestrianised precincts of the 80s, and then the multiplex places with the retail parks of the 90s. And it all, bit by bit, just crowds out all the little brilliant things that are going on underneath. And the skills and the individuality and all this joy of the place, I think, is threatened again now, this time because of the banking system, and that's crashed. So for some reason that means that the men at Chamberlain Hill are all on a 3-day fortnight, and the illuminations have been cancelled for the first time in 50 years. And so this is the spirit that you have in a town like this, is the spirit, I believe, that caused Henry Newbolt, who wrote Play Up and Play the Game, to write another lesser-known verse that I discovered to his poem. And I'll just finish with this, Walsall. The air of Walsall is sodden black. Black as a country whose heroes called Dora. Black as a statue it had to send back. Black as a night it can't light now it's poorer. Where saddles are smooth and iron clanks, and anarchists jailed though no bomb plot was proved, and a voice of a schoolboy fills the ranks. We can't meet in Walsall, the hippo's been moved. Thanks very much.
Mark Steele's in Town was written and performed by Mark Steele, and the producer was Julia Mackenzie.